And this looks exactly like, you can talk quid pro quo, you can say it is, it isn't, that's what's being debated. But this looks exactly like Donald Trump trying to get a foreign country and the president of a foreign country to help him dispatch a political rival, to force Joe Biden to withdraw, to force Joe Biden out of the race by some means. If you believe, which I do not, that our elections are fair and legitimate, let's just for giggle's sake say they are, giggle, 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 then the one candidate that Donald Trump would probably have the most difficulty with, or have the most to be concerned about, would be Joe Biden. He's basically regarded as Democrats go today, as the most centrist or moderate Democrat, kind of an old school Democrat, not completely, and by everybody's opinion anyway, he's not looked at as quite as socialist or leftist as, say, Bernie Sanders or even Elizabeth Warren. I don't know what quite to make of Tulsi Gabbard, actually. I think she's actually not completely crazy or insane, but Tulsi Gabbard is not going to get the nomination, so she's irrelevant. Joe Biden would be, in a supposed fair and legitimate election, Joe Biden would be the biggest threat, the biggest concern for Donald Trump. Now, what also, though, concerns me with Trump, and I say that this, and I said on my Facebook page that this is his own doing because he was stupid enough in the run-up to an election year to ask the Ukraine to investigate the son of maybe his chief political rival. But his supporters have also let him get away with everything without even trying to hold him accountable. What's always distressed me, what's always concerned me, what's always saddened me is Donald Trump's lifestyle, his record, no government record, no policy-making record before running for president, but his character and his fitness for office, or lack thereof, has been known for years. And I'm not going to get into everything for time's sake, but some of the stuff that I posted, the lawsuits against him in business from those that he stiffed, misled, did not pay what he said he would pay, the business bankruptcies, which I already talked about, other failed business ventures, serious allegations from various women who have alleged harassment, abuse, even rape. His first wife, Ivana, actually accused him of rape. Now, she recanted, basically, but her first description of it was that he had raped her. The weird, inappropriate, almost incestuous remarks and made towards his daughter Ivanka, and the creepy pictures, photographs that he's taken with her, some of the weird statements and actions he's made, even with underage girls and children, watching an 8-year-old girl go up the escalator at Trump Tower and saying he would be dating her in 10 years. He's had ties, of course, to Jeffrey Epstein. He's had ties. His original mentor was Roy Cohn. You can do some information or research into Roy Cohn, last name Cohn. He was friends, and I believe still is friends, with both Clintons. He was friends with Harvey Weinstein. He's had ties to the New York mob. He's had ties to, I believe, the Russian mafia through Felix Sater, who worked in his building on the same floor as him and was indicted and brought up on serious financial fraud charges that he only escaped because he made a deal with the government. He was named as a co-defendant with George Soros in a huge RICO lawsuit, racketeering lawsuit. He took out a mezzanine loan from George Soros to build Trump Tower in Chicago. I believe Jared Kushner also took out a loan from Soros for something. I believe both loans were mysteriously forgiven. He's had his legal problems with the class action lawsuit with Trump University from people saying They were defrauded. He had to close down his supposed charity with, I believe, he and his family, his children, not allowed to run or head up any charity in New York. And on it goes, and that information has been public record. You look at his record as president, the debt and deficit has continued to explode. Planned Parenthood is still funded. The number of babies they've murdered has gone up, not down. There's no new wall, where there's fencing that's been replaced, but there's no new wall. Border crossings have gone up, not down. The economy has not done as well as what the government and even the media says that it's done. And his supporters, when faced with all of this, and with the lawsuits against him for basically profiting from the office of the presidency by having various people, including foreign leaders and foreign dignitaries and ambassadors and emissaries, staying at his properties, another pay-for-play scheme. I'm sorry, that's what it is. And his supporters call all of this fake news. They say, you don't understand what he's really doing. You don't understand how much support he has, how many people he has at his rallies. Look at this, look at that. This is a man who has been a self-centered, amoral, valueless con man, and people in New York know that's exactly what he's been for basically his entire life. And when you exalt him instead of humbling him or allowing him to be humbled, he only exalts and celebrates himself. And like I said, our duty, especially as Christians, is to primarily try to win people to Christ and try to set an example for Christ. We all fall short of that. I know that I do. But that should be our main concern, and that includes trying to lead Donald Trump to Christ, who claims he's a Christian, but I don't know. I don't see any fruits of that at all. If you do, you're welcome, even though, not taking calls here or anything, but you can try to find me on Facebook, either Jason Hawes on Facebook or American Faith Today on Facebook. And if you see any fruits, feel free to try to let me know or try to argue the case. Like I said, I know I don't see any Christian fruits from him, and I know that he said he doesn't need to be forgiven for anything. But he can be forgiven, and he is loved by God. But if you continue to exalt somebody who has a huge ego and probably does suffer from narcissistic personality disorder, he's going to fall farther and farther away from God. And he might take the whole country with him along the way. And it really isn't trying to put people on a guilt trip. It's every American's duty to hold any president accountable, especially, quote, one of our guys. And it's every Christian's duty to put God and Christ first. And if you see somebody doing something that mocks God, that goes against God, that is sinful, that is distasteful according to His Word, not according just to my opinion, not according to just your opinion, but according to the Word of God, you don't support that. And you don't make excuses for that. And you don't make excuses for him. You don't enable him in that way. Not if you actually care about even his very soul. But, this is not going to go anywhere, and it's not going to go anywhere, I believe, for two reasons. Reason number one, obviously, even if they were to impeach, that goes to the Senate. The Senate holds the trial. The Senate is composed of majority Republicans. At this point, almost assuredly, they would not convict Donald Trump and rule that he be removed from office. But there's a deeper reason to this too. And I posted this on my personal timeline. I will try to post it actually on the American Faith Today Facebook page. I came across this. I posted this on Sunday afternoon, I believe, if memory serves. I was not familiar with this man. A man by the name of Tom Horn. I do not want to say he's a Christian scholar. or a biblical scholar. He's an author. He writes books for a living. His books, I believe, primarily deal with Christian subjects, maybe with things that are prophetic, things of that nature. He has a book. I saw it on YouTube, and what they were talking about was a book in which he basically, and I'm sorry I got crickets or something outside that are distracting me a little bit, but he was actually contacted by somebody on President Trump's faith council or one of his faith leaders. And he was given this scoop. And what this scoop was after Trump won the presidency, he was visited by rabbis from Israel who are part of the Sanhedrin. These rabbis from the Sanhedrin came to the Oval Office, congratulated Trump for winning, and said this was unpredictable, this seemed impossible, this had to be God at work. And there's a lot of Christians who believe that as far as that goes, but that's not where they stopped. Because they revealed, I think, just how much they control, and how much control and influence they have over our elections. Because after that, and along with that, they said that his winning a second term in office would be contingent and would hinge on his supporting and vocalizing support for the construction of the third temple in Jerusalem. This is basically these Sanhedrin rabbis saying that we have control and massive influence over your election and over whether or not you're going to be reelected, Donald Trump. I don't know how you look at that, especially if you have any understanding. And again, I don't have a lot of time left here already, but if you have any understanding of those who call themselves Jews of the synagogue of Satan of Revelation 2:9 and 3:9, that you can trace throughout the entire Bible, from the time of Cain to the time of First Chronicles, as they are the sons of Cain, to the time of First Chronicles, chapter 2, I believe, where you have the Kenites, sons of Cain, who assumed the duties of scribes for Israel, to the time of the release from the captivity, when Ezra looked and there were no sons of Levi as Levitical priests, but rather these Kenites who were assuming the priesthood, to the time of Christ, when you had the Pharisees and the scribes, who were of this same family, who were of this same seed line, the seed line that Christ identified in John chapter 8, saying they were of their father the devil. That's the same seed line. They are the tares from the parable of the sower, and they continue to this day. But that's what they said. And then after that, they minted these coins. One side had Cyrus, another side had Trump. They've named certain things in Israel after Trump. And I've seen stories on Facebook in which these Sanhedrin rabbis are claiming that the Messiah, that Trump is going to bring the Messiah. Understand, these rabbis do not believe in Jesus Christ. They do not believe Christ is the Messiah. They do not believe there was a first coming of the Messiah. So the next Messiah, or the Messiah coming who will come on the scene, is actually the false Messiah, the Antichrist. He comes before Christ. I covered it in my last podcast, but Christ warns us as well and tells us as well in all of the Gospels dealing with the end, the Gospel accounts, Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, that if someone says Christ is here, believe him not, it's the fake. Paul wrote in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 that there is no gathering back to Christ until the fake shows up first, that man of sin who stands in the temple of God, proclaiming himself and showing himself that he is God. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, along about verse 4, I believe. So that's the Messiah that they're waiting on. That's the Messiah that they're claiming that Trump is going to bring.